Welcome back to the Plan Medicine for PTSD podcast. I'm David, and you should already know that by now if you're listening to this. So, I am joined today by a gentleman named Jeremy Hudec. I think I'm pronouncing that last name right, who is a retired RCMP officer. For all of my American listeners, the RCMP is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, meaning they are on horseback at all times. No, I'm just kidding. But the RCMP is it's sort of like a blend of like the FBI, but also local policing. Things are a little bit strange north of the border, but they are a police force. And Jeremy was on this police force for many years up until uh, well, a multitude of things happened that ultimately ended his career that you are going to hear about in this episode. He's got a pretty crazy story, a little bit reminiscent of if you guys listen to my episodes with a guy named Mike LaGregne, where there's like a combination of traumatic events happening, terrible management from like the higher ups, and just like a horrible culture at work that's ultimately making him feel like he was getting pushed out. And as you'll also hear, Jeremy had like a few genuinely crazy events happen, like this car accident that he got in while responding to a call, and then all of the legal ramifications that came with that. So I think this is a very interesting story just purely to listen to as like, wow, that's a crazy story. But all of that is really just a preamble to the healing journey that Jeremy went on, and he ended up going down to Mexico to sit with ibogaine, and that medicine changed his life so profoundly that he knew that he had to do something to help other people get access to it, and he went and founded Project LifeSpark, which, to be fair, at the time of this recording is not technically a nonprofit. They're still waiting for a letter in the mail from the Canadian equivalent of the IRS. But essentially, it's a nonprofit whose mission is to support fellow first responders getting access to ibogaine. And interestingly, we have a client right now who shall remain nameless, who is an RCMP officer going through our microdosing program to help him heal from his PTSD. And he's been in touch with Jeremy trying to get a scholarship to go down and get an ayahuasca, or I'm sorry, not an ayahuasca retreat, to get access to an ibogaine retreat. I recorded an episode just earlier today, a lot about ayahuasca, so I've got it on my brain. So I do perhaps I feel like I owe Jeremy a bit of an apology because when we recorded this one, I was so tired. I think it was a day where Sita, our daughter, woke me up at like 4 a.m. or something. So my brain was probably not at peak function. So I'm sorry, Jeremy. Fortunately, he does most of the talking in this episode. And like I said, his story is, I think, really, really interesting to listen to. So without further ado, let's get into this one. And Jeremy, thank you again for sharing this, and thank you for doing the work that you do with Project LifeSpark. Board. Tell us a little bit about your background. So talk to us first just about your career and what you were doing before Project LifeSpark and all this.
Okay, so I guess originally I was trained to be a pilot. Uh, did commercial went up all the way to my commercial multi-engine IFR rating, and I was trying to join the Air Force. I wanted to join the Air Force. That was I kind of always felt this need to serve, and I went through all the application, and I went to a local college, or was university now, but local college at the time. Took their aviation program, and part of the program was if you paid for the first year, the Air Force would pay for your second year, and then you could skip a phase of flight training and all that sort of stuff. And did all the testing and stuff, and I came back, and they're like, "Hey, you got to test your eyes." And I'm like, "Okay." Went test my eyes, and a few weeks later, I get this call, "Oh yeah, we want to test your eyes again." I'm like, "Oh, that's not good." Yeah, that's not good. So, anyways, long story short, I was disqualified from air crew status. But they're like, "We'll still send you to training if you want to go." And I'm like, "Well, it's a big commitment to not do what you really want to do." So I kind of said, "No, thank you, but no, thank you." And then I took a bit to figure out what I was really wanting to do. And I knew I always felt, like I said, I felt this desire to serve. And when I was growing up in my hometown, there was a fellow that lived across the street from us. He was a Mountie, a member of the RCMP. And I remember him telling me way back, he's like, "Oh, you should join the Mounties." And I'm like, "No, no, no, I'm not. I want to fly." And kind of came full circle. And I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna apply." And so I joined the RCMP, and I served from 2005 to 2015. I was all in frontline general duty policing. Um, I was in a small limited duration posting for the first 4.5, 5 years of my service, and then the next remaining time I was in another larger center just south of Calgary.
Okay, I was gonna ask what kind of settings those were in, because I've met some dudes where their life is pretty chill, and then I've met other dudes where they have like three people responsible for however many 100 square miles on a
Yeah,
reservation, and they're getting shot at every day by indigenous folks, like
yeah,
for crazy stories. So what was
yeah,
that? You said 2005 to 2015 ish. You were doing that, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
what were
So the
those
first,
experiences like?
yeah, the my first post was very rural, and like when I went there, I remember that I knew where it was. I'm from Alberta, so I knew where this place was. I knew it was very rural, but when I got there, uh, it was me and my trainer. That was it,
Yeah,
and like the detachment was short. There's some people that had quit, transferred, uh, and then there was a fellow that was there, and um, his wife was pregnant, so there was a whole bunch of different scenarios going on there. We were short. We were having people coming in from detachments from all over the place, just filling in the holes. Um, so we were dramatically understaffed,
yeah.
and I remember people telling me, "Oh, this is Sleepy Hollow. There's nothing happens there." But dude, we were busy. We were so busy, and like it was anything but Sleepy Hollow. Like in 2005, like oil boom was going on, and man, there was drugs and booze and flowing like crazy over there. It was crazy, and then you're dealing with, for whatever reason, um, it seemed like we had a fatal on the highway. Like I don't, there was a lot in the first few months that I was there. It just seemed like people were just going out there to die on the highway. It felt like that. But yeah, we dealt with all this stuff that a police officer in a large center would, we had domestic disturbances, armed robberies, we had stabbings, we had, you name it, right? It's all that stuff. Uh, where I started running into issues was I just got burnt out. I had no outlet. When I wasn't working, I was on call. And so like I, I mean, my trainer was very diligent on saying you got to keep track of your time. You need to, keep good records of your time and what you're working and everything. And I still have them, like working like 80 hours overtime in a 2 week period wasn't uncommon. Like there was a lot. We were getting
Yeah.
called out. You get home and I remember just getting home and it's blowing snow and freezing outside, and it's like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I literally just sit down to take my socks off, and the phone rings, and I got to go back out again. The car's already cold, and just like, oh man, I was burnt out. I just got fried, and there was no social outlet. I didn't have any. I was young single guy at the time. I didn't have any family there. I didn't have any friends there. I just got fried, and within the first year, I just noticed I just wasn't feeling very good, and I didn't know what it was. I wasn't sleeping very well.
Already just within the first year of working.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I wasn't sleeping very well, and just like, oh, I think my bed's not good anymore, and I'm gonna go buy a new bed.
Yeah.
So I went and bought a new bed, and like,
That'll fix it.
yeah. Well, I
You didn't
I
know,
didn't
yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know what
Yeah.
post traumatic stress was. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Um, but I just remember like I'd go out. It, the summer of '06 specifically, I remember like I would go out to work. I remember like I I just start crying before I left. I don't know why I would. I just
Really?
did it, and then I'd get myself together. I'd go out, and I would not remember where I went, what I did, who I talked to, my whole shift.
Damn, that's not good.
Like I had it just like I went into this different mental state. This
Yeah,
I
man.
just I had no, and like even and you can imagine my work suffered from that. Like I remember when I got finally months down the road after I kind of got back, had a break, and I got back in there, I started to look at my work, and I'm like, what was I doing here? Like, like my notes weren't very good. And I knew something was wrong. I just, I didn't know what it was.
That's what
And
I
I
was gonna
remember,
say. Like, if you said you were crying before your shifts, right? Like, just like sitting in your car, like you had no idea why, you had no idea what was going on. But that's a pretty big fucking red flag that something is amiss here.
yeah, and when I did eventually have time to leave, I'd leave, and I'd have this. When I'd have to come back, I'd have this sinking, sick feeling in my stomach, and I just, yeah, I think honestly, David, I think that in some aspects, like you, you know, as a police officer what you're going to get into. You know what you're going to deal with, but you don't really know what you're going to deal with. You don't know what that's like until you're actually in it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It
I don't know if I know what you're saying because I was never a police officer.
Okay, so like as I think the general public in general knows, okay, you're a cop. You deal with death. You deal with you know drugs. You arrest people. You take care of bad guys. All that stuff, but you don't really appreciate the gravity or the depth of that. What that really means. What does that really look like? What is what is the impact of that do to somebody? And especially when you're not getting the proper rest, you're not getting the proper time off. There was no such thing as critical incident debrief when I was in there,
Really?
and that's in 2005. Like
Yeah.
there was none of that. I don't recall any of that.
Wow.
Um, so you start you start social isolation, all that stuff. You start tacking that stuff on top of what you're actually dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and you look back and I'm like, well, yeah, no wonder I was feeling like I was feeling. I
Yeah.
was fried, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I was young. Like I just, I don't really think I really appreciated what this all really meant. Uh, it's easy for me to look back now and be like, yeah, you might have been a little young and naive going into that. And I will say that like it didn't take me long, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and I realized how lucky I was growing up. Um, how grateful I was for the family and friends and my life that I had. Like I remember calling mom and dad and just saying, I'm not sure I ever said this to you guys before, but thank you for everything. Because like you see some of that stuff and you're just like, you just never look at the world the same way, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure. Puts things in
Um,
perspective.
yeah. And like, like I know that's it's out there on the internet, but most people in their lifetime might see one or two traumatic incidents in their life. Whereas a police officer, first responder, it's hundreds,
Yep. It's
hundreds,
everyday occurrence.
every day, and I, years down the way, when I was finally into a proper therapy setting, and I was in group therapy sessions with uh, military military veterans from Afghanistan. The RCMP falls under Veterans Affairs Canada, so as part of that, RCMP officers get access to all the operational stress injury clinics
Right.
across the country.
Yep.
So
Yep.
there's very many. It was frequent. It wasn't uncommon to interact with military veterans in that setting. And I'd listen to these guys' stories coming back from Afghanistan. And there was guys that had served in Bosnia and wherever Canada's do peacekeeping work. And I would sit there and like you felt unworthy for being there. Like you just like you felt like you listen to what they're dealing with, and I'm like, I don't belong here. Like this is,
Mm.
you know, my experience was not that. Like I don't. And I remember when I kind of vocalized this in the group setting, and the one veteran, he goes, "No, man," he goes, "You belong here." And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" And he said, we go out, we get deployed, and we're there for 5, 6 months. We know what we're getting into, but we know there's a definite ending. You guys go out there and you do it every day, all day, over and over, 24/7, 365, again and again and again for years on end.
I think the one
You
other
know.
factor that I didn't even appreciate until I started working with some more police officers is that the trauma, the things that a veteran goes through, for the most part, happened somewhere else. They happen on the other side of the world most of the time.
Hmm.
Whereas you might have to drive past the scene of a fatality every time you go get groceries, or drive
Hmm.
past where you got shot at every single time that you want to, go to the mall or what have you. So I think that adds another layer to it that, again, I didn't even fully appreciate until I worked with one of our first police officers where that was the case. Like, literally, to get to work every morning, he had to drive past the site where his best friend was shot and killed on duty. Kind of fucked with him a little bit, as one could
Yeah,
imagine. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I was never shot at, so I never had to deal with that, thankfully. But I can appreciate that for sure.
Yeah.
There were you go by certain houses or certain places on the road, and you're like, yep, yep. Um, just you get that tingle up your back.
Yeah.
Not in a good way.
So, dude, you started in 2005. Within
Yeah.
1 year, you were already feeling this. What happened from fucking 2006 to 2015? Like, how did you continue to survive this?
Okay, so I went off. I remember like my sister was taking social work, and she could see that something was wrong with me. I knew I didn't feel right, but I didn't know what it was. And I remember I went to visit her, and she was on a break, a lunch break, and I went to see her before I was heading back. And I just remember her telling me, like, "Jeremy, there's something wrong with you. You need to go see somebody, please." Like, and she's like, made me promise to go see somebody. And it was upsetting for the both of us because I knew she was right. I just didn't know what it
Hmm.
was. I didn't know how to.
Who
I just
said
did.
this to you? That was
My
your
sister,
sister? Yeah.
my sister, yeah. Um, yeah. And I didn't know what it was, and it was upsetting for both of us because I don't think she knew what it was either.
Yeah.
So eventually, I did write the forest doc. I think I just reached out to the forest doc, if I remember right. And yes, it was. And so that would have been towards the fall of 2006. And I made an appointment to go see her. And I went in there, and she immediately took me off duty. That was it.
Hmm.
She was like, "You need a break." And I'm like, and it was a little bit of a relief, but like the shame and the guilt that you feel like a failure. It still wasn't diagnosed, but you feel this. I just remember feeling like embarrassed and shameful. Um,
Why do you think that was? Like, what contributed to that? I mean, I can imagine, but literally, like, what were the thoughts or feelings that were going through your head at that time?
I remember feeling like you felt that I'd let everybody down.
Hmm. Everyone else
Uh,
on the force, you mean? Like
the
your.
force, my family, my friends,
Hmm.
my coworkers. I'd signed up to do something, and I'm failing at it.
Yeah.
Um, and again, just feeling that there's something wrong with me, and I didn't know how to verbalize that. I didn't know what that looked like. So I started going to see. I didn't. I remember seeing like hypno. I did hypnosis,
Really?
and I did like there was some other sort of therapy that I did. I don't know what it was. I don't remember, but I specifically remember. Excuse me, the hypnosis, and I remember just going to see like the family doctor in where I was living, and it was just like a huge dosage of antidepressants. Um, again, it wasn't. There was no real therapy. There was no diagnosis. I was diagnosed with depression, but as we all know now, like depression is a symptom of post-traumatic stress, and like
Yeah,
the,
there's a little bit
you
more
know,
to it than just
look,
that. Yeah.
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 So, but again, that's as far as it was. That's as far as it was dug into. So, like basically, I was given time off and uh, a huge dosage of antidepressants, and by Christmas of '06, I was back on the road again. And again, just keep going. And I would say the dosage got me through that. Like the meds got me through that first post, and the guys that I worked with a good group of guys, and they were
Mm.
like I'm still friends with the guys from my first post. Like
Okay.
you know,
That's awesome.
it wasn't an optimal place as far as my personal life, but as far as professionally, we were a close knit team and we stuck together and we had each other. You
What
know,
do you remember from the hypnosis treatments? Like what was that like? Do you feel like it did anything?
man, it's a long time ago, but I will say I do remember like um, I remember like being hypnotized or going through the therapy and like and the guy's like after we were done, he's like, "How long do you think you were?" I'm like, oh, 5-10 minutes. He's like, that was 55 minutes.
Hmm.
So like the time there was like a time shift there for me, and I
Mm-hmm.
will say also that I remember feeling a lot more relaxed,
Mm.
but that feeling did not persist very long. It was maybe for
Yeah.
like an hour or two, and then it's gone, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But I will say that I do remember that from the therapy itself.
Interesting.
But once I went back on the road, I didn't. There was no more of that. That was really the only real therapy I ever got. Um,
Fuck, dude.
so
Here, just take these meds. Good luck.
yeah, well, yeah, and again, like I didn't know. I didn't advocate for myself very well,
Yeah, you didn't know.
and again, like the RCMP is so spread out in these small little places all across the country, and like you might like. I was 3 hours away from a major center like Edmonton or Calgary, where these OSI clinics, these specialty clinics were. And honestly, I don't even know if they existed back then. To be honest with
Mm-hmm.
you,
Yeah.
maybe they didn't even exist.
Yeah.
So that specialty care would have been a long ways away, and like to try to organize the logistically, like your schedule and having to go see people to get actual proper help that you need. Well, I don't even know what that would have looked like. I mean, I know people are doing it now, but I don't know what that would have looked like for me at the time.
Yeah.
It's that's tough, and I wanted to get out of there. I wanted to get out of there so badly. I just knew that I wasn't very happy there. I wanted a life outside of work.
And so is that what happened? You just got switched to a different posting that was less stressful?
No, it wasn't. Well, I mean, I my time came up.
Ah,
Eventually,
okay.
they could only hold you there in like maximum 5 years.
Oh, okay. Dude, I have no idea how the
Yeah,
fucking RCMP works, man.
yeah. Well, I don't. Sometimes I don't think they do either. But anyways,
Yeah.
um, so LDPs, limited duration posting, or maximum 5 year post.
Okay.
So once you get to like maybe like the 3 to 4 year mark, they start like, hey, what do you think about? Where would you like to go
Okay.
next? What's your kind of ambition, right?
Okay.
Prior to that, they won't talk to you. Then they have like isolated posts, and I think those are like 2 to 3 years max, if I remember
Okay.
correctly. I could be wrong. I think 2 to 3 year maximum. And those guys are all like spread out in the far north, and there may be some in the further northern part of the province, but typically mostly in the northern part of the country.
Okay.
So, and I think they have a tough time staffing those spots. So like they're not going to just let you go. Is if you're not happy, so what? They don't care. Like it's
I was gonna ask, could they
yeah,
basically post you there kind of against your will and like keep you there
yeah,
kind of against your will? So your
yeah,
options are just quit
yeah,
or suck it up?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, not ideal.
Not a deal. Um, I don't know. Like I've heard people say that they send people who do well in training to these smaller places because they've shown that they can
Handle themselves.
handle themselves or they're competent to do the job. But I mean, quite frankly, if I would have known that, I'd been like, I would have thrown a few exams here or there, needs a little more direction, send to someplace bigger. I don't know.
Yeah,
I shouldn't
right.
say stuff like that, but like,
Sandbag a little bit.
right in your head, you're like, but you're the kind of like people that go into that line of work are typically the kind of people that don't do it half-assed. They want to be the best they can do and all that stuff, right? So I mean, yeah, like you just there's a lot of coulda, woulda, shoulda maybe going on as the further down your career you get. But um, yeah, so that by the time it took me a year to sell my house because there's such a small place, and um, as you can imagine, the people aren't coming and going there and that
Yeah.
much. So it took me a bit to sell my house, and I ended up taking a post in just south of Calgary, and I moved back to Calgary because after my first that post, I was like, I am never ever living in the town that I police ever again. I'm never doing that. Um, and and I was happy to get back to civilization, so to speak. I was like, I remember feeling just like really glad that um, if I wanted to go see a movie, I could do that. If I wanted to go out for supper, I could go do that. And I was working with, I had people on my shift. It wasn't just me, like a lot of times when I was working, my first post, I'd be the only guy on between Stettler and the Saskatchewan border. Like now there's other detachment areas in there, but I mean, what if I remember the numbers correctly, I think our detachment area was 1,400 square miles, something like that. Like it was a big space, and a lot of times you're the only guy on, and a lot of times your nearest backup is 40 minutes away and in bed.
That's that's exactly what one of our clients was telling us about this dude who got shot at multiple times on reservations. Uh, that exact thing that you just shared, that where the closest backup is an hour away and he's asleep right now. So like whatever happens or whatever's about to happen, I am solely responsible for it. And I think that for him, that feeling of being alone and just like nobody coming, like there is no help available for you. I think that that is really what fucked with him the most on a lot of these calls. And like that's why I think that that's what has stuck with him the most as
Yeah,
well, in terms of like driving a lot of his anxiety that he still feels when he's chilling in the basement of his house and his kids are upstairs and he's like on high alert waiting for somebody to shoot at him, and like his only job today is to, hey, do some drywall in the kitchen and take a nap, and his brain is
yeah,
still scanning for threats the whole time.
yeah, yeah. It's true though. I remember I mean, it didn't take me long, and I'd come to the city, and you find yourself, you're always watching people. Like you don't want to sit with your back to the door. You're watching people put in their hands, get just like what do they got in their pockets?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're just tweaked. Like you're always on. You know. And I will say, um, at some point in between getting my transfer or towards the end of my post and getting transferred out, I decided to go off my meds. Didn't want them anymore.
Okay.
So by the time I transferred in 2009, and I'm happy that I'm coming back to the city, and I'm happy I get to do all the things that people do. Um, I think I was starting to kind of come back. It was starting to creep back at me a little bit again.
Why did you decide to come off the meds? You just didn't want to be on them anymore?
Yeah,
Okay. How did
yeah. There
that
was
go for you coming off of them?
so I remember feeling really sick, and I'm like, "What the?" I just did it. I went cold turkey, and I remember feeling really sick. I getting the brain zaps and getting like the dizziness, and I remember like being at work and like so my boss was really like on the weekends he was really big on us not having to be by ourselves. So he like our schedule suffered so that we could have two-man car on the weekend nights. Every other day during the week. So except for Friday and Saturday, we were rolling single person on shift. But
Okay.
he made sure on Fridays and Saturday nights that we had two people in a car. He just
And
felt it
why?
was safer.
Okay. Okay.
But our schedule suffered. As a result, we didn't have as much time off as that we should have had. Anyways, I remember working with my partner on this Friday and Saturday night, and I was sick. Like I felt nauseous and I was getting these dizzy shots. And I remember like getting out of the car to go do like a traffic stop, and I had to like stop and like kind of brace myself against the car because I was dizzy. And I'm like, I don't feel very good. Like I think I need to go home. Like I don't feel very good. And I didn't talk to the doctor about doing it. Like I didn't realize how powerful those little things were, man. Like they're crazy powerful,
Yeah.
crazy powerful. And so I just kind of wrote it out, um, and went off them. But by the time I went back to my next post, I I was starting to suffer the effects of post traumatic stress again, or just it
Hmm.
was I was starting to feel.
What were you noticing? Like what crept back in?
I think anxiety, and I just had this. I remember this sick sinking feeling in my stomach all the time. It's the only way I could really describe it.
Hmm.
Wasn't sleeping very well, like just. And I was starting to date my now wife at the time, and I'd get back home and I'd be so tired I couldn't even lick my lips. It's like you just fall forward on the couch and you're falling asleep because I wasn't sleeping,
Hmm.
and uh, it just was not really engaging, and it just really um, not doing well. And I remember we went to a wellness check. This was the spring of, actually, it was during the Winter Olympics, 2010 Olympics. I remember this. Um, that I got this call for this wellness check. Basically, it was attempted suicide. Well, we got there, we ended up saving the guy's life, but there was blood everywhere. Um, After that, I remember coming into work the next day and having this feeling, or this thought, like I should not be here. There's something wrong. I don't know what it is, but I should not be here. I told one of my corporals that, and she's like, no, you're fine.
Hmm.
Handle it great. It's okay. I'm like, something's not right. It feels like it did before.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember going, and I ended up reaching out to the force doc again, and again, uh, I was taken off duty, and I wasn't until 2010 that I was diagnosed with post traumatic stress,
Hmm.
and I started seeing different therapists. Again, it was weekly appointments and stuff, and I was doing. There was some pressure to come back to work, so I had some pressure from my bosses to come back to work. When you coming back, and like they were calling me and stuff, and so I ended up like doing like a mix of desk duty. It was light duties is what it was,
Hmm.
but it was honestly like there was some bullying and harassment that were going on there.
From the people trying to get you back to work, or
My
how do you mean?
supervisors, my
Yeah.
supervisors, yeah.
When you say
I
bullying
yeah.
and harassment, how do you mean?
Um, well, I can't. No, it's like I started writing stuff down because I know it was just like a lot of keep. But anyways, there was stuff like because I was just doing all I was doing was traffic collision reports. It sucked. It was very very meaningless work. And they would make comments like, "Hey, we'll get you some dress into the pantyhose, and you can go work up in front with the girls."
Hmm.
One of my supervisors told me he thought it was a fucking joke. Thought I was playing the game. And of course, you're sick, like you can't defend yourself. And I remember thinking, like, what if it was your son or daughter sitting where I'm at? Would you say that to them? Um, it wasn't. It was tough. Like, it was. It was a tough few years, and I wanted to get back on the road, and I did eventually end up doing that. Um, and I was glad to do it. Felt like I was finally contributing again in a meaningful way. And then that spring, summer, we had some catastrophic flooding in the area in the Calgary area. And again, I started feeling just worn out. And I think I was starting to isolate myself a little bit. Um, yeah, and I wasn't doing very well. And then in October of that year, 2013, I was in a really serious car wreck while I was on duty.
You were in the car
I
wreck.
was in, yeah,
Shit.
yeah, I was.
Okay.
I was responding to a rollover.
Mm-hmm.
I was coming out of town, had my lights on and stuff, and I remember thinking like we had some freezing rain or sleet the night before, and I remember thinking it was in the morning. I was responding to this call, and I was heading out to north of the city onto the highway, and the traffic was morning rush hour traffic, and I'm like, I need to slow down. There's a lot of cars here. I need to slow down. So I remember slowing down to 110-ish, somewhere in there, kilometers an hour. So
Still quick though.
okay. um, so cars are getting out of the way, and I'm like, okay, fine. Then all of a sudden, this truck moves, and then I notice the truck ahead of me isn't moving, and I'm like, that's weird. That truck's not moving. And then I'm kind of going a little further, and I'm like, holy shit, there's another accident here. So I hit my brakes, and nothing happened. I just like kept going, and I was like, oh no. And I'm going. I'm still over 100 kilometers an hour. And the last thing I remember seeing was the back end of a 1-ton flat deck truck with a checkered steel plate bumper on it, and it had like bricks on it. It had like masonry bricks and steel wire and stuff on it, and I just right into the back of that thing. Um, and I don't remember if I lost consciousness or not. I don't, but I remember kind of coming to my senses or trying to, and like trying to engage the radio to call for help, and I just kept like hitting the RTT button or the transmit button, and nothing was happening. And then I'm like, oh yeah, the car's dead. Like, so then I need help. So then I kind of got my phone out, and I'm like, I couldn't remember anybody's phone number, and I was like, I don't know who to call. So I started just like scrolling through the phone to find the number I recognized. Like it was really like my brain was just fried. Um, and I was bleeding from my mouth. I remember that, and my neck really, really hurt, and my arm and my hand really hurt. And I remember somebody like this. So I was the last car I thought it was 5-car pilot, but apparently it was 6. I don't remember that, but it was a 6-car fender bender. No, well, it wasn't a fender bender, but anyway. Um, and somebody had come up to the car, and I could kind of see them saying, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll be out in a second." And then I tried. Like, of course, I couldn't get out because the guardrail was right to my left. I couldn't open the door, so I had to like get out. And I like remember thinking, "I got to get out of this car. I'm not letting the fire department cut me out of here. There's no way." It's funny. Like, it's just like there's no fucking way I am getting the fire department to cut me out of this car.
Why was that the thought in your mind?
Out
Is
of
that like
stupid pride,
yeah,
it's
this
the
fucking pride thing. Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
yeah, just stupid stuff like that, right? So I unbuckled my seatbelt, and I remember like kind of had my duty bag strapped in the seat next to me, and kind of climbing over that, and I could only like get the door open just a little bit because it was the car was smashed.
It's crunched, yeah.
Um, and so what the traffic analyst figured out was that I think when I hit the back of that truck, I was doing 104 kilometers an hour. And I went from 104 to 0 in 2.5 feet. So
Fuck, man.
the car was destroyed, put it that way. And honestly, I think the only reason I came out of there without, well, best case scenario, um, no internal injuries, like severe internal injuries. Worst case scenario, I think, it could have possibly killed me, but my body armor really did save my life. It dissipated all that energy, and like the seatbelt and body armor just dissipated all that energy. So like I didn't have any broken ribs. I had no like damaged internal organs. It was all like in my like fractures in my neck and my hand. Really, this is like really the most severe in my concussion. But got out of the car, and I like, all right, kind of laying on the road like this, thinking, okay, I got out. All right, get up, go do your job. So got up. I went down to make sure everybody was okay. I started like getting everybody's documents, like just doing my job. I'm like, get out of the way. Let's, I just need your driver's licenses. Let's start doing this stuff. It started collecting. I remember somebody said to me, "Are you okay?" And I'm kind of walking funny. I'm kind of holding my hand weird. And I'm like, "No, I'm fine." So I just, putting all this stuff into my pockets, going back to my car to like do what I'd always done.
What a surreal
And
experience for all of those other people there. That like, they're this is like the worst day of their life getting in this accident, and then they're like, "Oh, the cops are coming," and then the fucking cop smashes his car into their car too, and
right,
then just
but
acts like everything is fine and starts taking their insurance documents. That's
it's
crazy, dude.
but man, like I didn't know that that accident, that wasn't the accident I was going to.
That's exactly what I was thinking
Yeah,
too. Like you weren't even
yeah.
responding to where you were supposed to be. You're just like, "Well, here's another accident."
That accident literally happened like seconds before I got there.
Oh man, that's wild.
Like they had, I think that they had, uh, they had not been there very long until they heard and saw me coming down the road,
Like,
and then
wow, what a good response time.
right, we never get that.
Oh my god.
um, yeah, and then I collided in the back of this truck. But anyway, getting their stuff together, and somebody asked me, "Are you okay?" Yeah, I'm fine. I go getting everything back. I go back to my car to do my job, and I'm like, "How the fuck am I going to do this? The car's broken." I'm like, "Oh yeah, the car doesn't work. How am I going to do this?"
Yep.
And I remember thinking, "I hope somebody gets here soon. I don't know how long I can hold on for."
Hmm.
Like in your head, like the adrenaline's starting to wear off a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm
Probably
like,
starting to hurt.
"Yeah, yeah."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't know how long I can hold on to this for. And then the ambulance came, and I think somebody said, "Hey, why don't you come with us this way?"
Mm-hmm.
And I remember then sitting in the ambulance, and then one of my coworkers, eventually came, and I just kind of dumped all the documents in their hand. Um, should have gone to the hospital. I didn't. I went to like the urgent care center in
Mm-hmm.
town. Um, had a cast put on my hand. I should have got X-rays and stuff done, but I didn't. I don't know what. Yeah. Anyway, but that was my last day in uniform, and I didn't know it at the time, but that was my last day. That was October
Okay.
13th, 2013,
Okay.
and things quickly spiraled from there.
In what way? I mean, I can imagine you just had a major fucking brain injury on top of everything else. But when you say they
Um,
spiraled, what happened?
now, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. I don't. And I'm not saying it was entirely their fault either. I think that probably my behavior prior to the accident, the isolating that I was doing, kind of didn't really help,
Yeah.
and maybe my work was suffering. However, a lot of the people on my team just we don't want nothing to do with you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, people weren't calling. There was comments made, that sort of thing. Um, and I'm trying to like deal with what my body is feeling, and then mentally I'm starting to decline pretty rapidly, and um, it's just a violent feedback. You'll get pain, and that makes you feel your mind feel lousy. Your mind feels lousy, and that kind of inflates the pain you're feeling in your body. And it's
Yeah.
just a vicious cycle around and around and around.
Yeah.
Um, I will say I was so when I've never been the guy to like just come home and drink by myself. It was never that guy. I was a binge drinker. Um, and maybe Fridays and Saturday nights. That's what I did. I wanted
You
to
like
drink.
you never were that way up until this point.
I felt it was more of a social thing. I always drank, but it seemed
Uh-huh.
like I think it got worse. It seemed to get worse.
Yeah.
Um, and looking back, I think it did. But anyway, just a lot of isolation from the people at the detachment, and then um, my supervisor decided that I needed I should be charged for that. I should be charged.
For
Um,
the collision?
yes.
Fuck. Okay.
So they accidents October, and then I think it was like March. I get this call. Hey, you need to come to the detachment. You're getting charged. You need to come pick up your ticket, your violation ticket. And I'm like, what?
Hmm.
Looking back, I should have said, no, you deliver it. You know where I live. I'm
Yeah,
not
right.
coming in. But I'm like, you're sick. I didn't know. And like, you're trained to like kind of you listen to your superior officers, right?
Yeah.
You listen to your superiors, you go. So I remember sitting in her office and like her like giving me this violation ticket, and I'm like, what is this for? Like this feels like harassment. This feels like bullying. Like what did I do wrong here? Like I was doing my job.
Yeah,
I was the one.
what did they charge you with exactly?
It was drive too fast for road conditions.
Hmm.
And I said to her, I said, what am I being charged for? Like, why? Like, I was the only one that was hurt. I was the last one in collision, last car in the collision. I didn't cause the collision. I was acting in accordance with my duties. Like, what is like? This feels like harassment, bullying. And she goes, Jeremy, yeah, I can see how you feel that way, but you wrecked a brand new police car, and someone needs to be held accountable. And I'm like, what the fuck, right?
That's
Like,
crazy.
so I had to get a lawyer, and I went to court to like defend myself. I pled not guilty, obviously. Like I'm not taking this. Like what? Like this makes no sense to me. Like I'm feeling like I'm being singled out. I'm being. So you want to talk about that feeling of betrayal, the institutional betrayal, all these things, and I'm struggling. Like at the same time, I'm like going through therapy at OSI. By this point, I got into OSI, and now I'm going doing all the things, and I'm struggling with like, should I leave? Should I stay? If I'm not a police officer, who am I? Like, what value do I have if I'm not doing this? Like, you're, I felt like my entire identity was attached to my badge.
Yeah.
Um, again, I've let everybody down. I'm a failure. I'm embarrassment to my friends and family. Like, and what am I going to do if I'm not this? Like, I had no idea. Like, I'm struggling with all this stuff, trying to feel better in my body, trying to feel better in my mind, and then I got this shit on the work end that like I'm just it was too much. It was just and like to I remember walking to like to one of my therapy sessions, and it was at Christmas time. I'm walking through the mall because the office is at the top level of the mall, and the music's playing and people are out shopping. They look happy and the bells are jingling at the Salvation Army donation buckets, and I'm like, I remember thinking, I want this all to end. I don't want like, what if this all just stopped?
Mm.
And I'm like, I, then I remember feeling like really guilty about that feeling. Like, what would my family do?
Yeah.
What if I actually did that? And I remember crying on the way. Like I started crying in the mall and like walking through the mall and I'm bawling. Everybody else is happy and
Yeah.
I must have looked like I was just out of my mind. I can't imagine what I would have looked like to a stranger walking through and would have seen me. But um, yeah, man. So I went to court and I successfully defended myself, found not guilty. Like it didn't take the judge long. It was like you could just see the look on his face. Like this is the most ridiculous thing. Dismissed. Like it was,
That's good
and
at least.
it was entire bullshit. It was such bullshit. Like and I remember, and then I came to find out that people in my detachment, people from my watch, when they found out that I had that I had won my trial, they said, "That's what a fucking joke that is."
In regards to what exactly? Just
Me
you and your
winning.
career at that point?
No, me winning.
Like what a joke the charges were.
No, what a joke that I won. What a
Oh, that
joke
you
that I was
beat
found.
it. Oh,
Yeah,
Jesus Christ, dude.
and I'm like, again, that feeling of betrayal. And I remember, oh man, I don't know if I want to, I don't want to say stuff like I just, I was at, when I found out about that, I remember collapsing on the floor in my bedroom, and I remember like the sun had made where I ended up on the floor. I remember the warmth of the carpet on the floor. I remember the
Mhm.
smell of the carpet. I physically remember feeling my mind break.
Explain that some more. What does that mean?
It felt like my mind broke. Like I can't do this anymore. Um, it was a physical feeling. I just like I, I don't know how else to explain it, David. It just like I never felt a physical sensation like this is too much. I can't do it.
Okay, so when you say my mind broke, not like you were going insane or like losing your grasp on reality or whatever, but just like I cannot function like this
Well,
anymore.
some of the things I was thinking was not reality. I like I imagined I imagined like I knew where I knew some people from my attachment were out for wings at the time, and I remember um, thinking I'm just going to drive down there. I'm going to go into the pub where they're at. I'm going to grab a glass like a pint glass off the desk, off the counter. I'm just going to walk up behind them and smash them over the back of the head. I'm going to walk out. I'm going to sit on the curb and wait for my coworkers to come arrest me.
Good plan.
That makes no sense. Like, why would I? But that's where my mind went.
Right.
Um, and then I was well, I'm going to file a harassment complaint against my supervisors because this is harassment. This just doesn't feel right to me. So I filed a harassment complaint, and it goes to the investigation. Of course, the RCMP. I went through. I can't remember the name of the Human Rights Canadian Human Rights Code, whatever it is, legislation, and I kind of went through it and saw where what they say, and I could relate parts of my what happened to parts of that, and this was my case. The investigation went out. Of course, the RCMP investigates themselves, so you imagine how impartial that was.
We found that we did nothing wrong. That's
Oh,
crazy.
it was unprofessional, it was inappropriate, but it was not harassment.
There you go.
And that so I got that. The results of that came back in 2015, the spring of 2015.
It sounds like you're
And
lucky that they didn't charge you with harassing them for filing this harassment claim.
well,
The
maybe,
way that
who knows?
everything's gone so
No,
far.
right? Right? I'm the
Jeez,
problem.
man. Yeah.
But that is how the RCMP works.
Hmm.
If you are like I was a problem to get rid of.
Yeah.
I'm taking up a seat. I'm taking up a space that we could have a fully capable member, and I'm sick. I'm not there. I would like to. I would hope that things are different now. I can't say that they are. I mean, from what I hear, they're not. Um, but so when it finally came back that it's inappropriate, it's unprofessional, but it's not harassment. It was at that moment I realized I had to go. There was I would never be promoted. This would follow me around no matter where I went. I would never get plain clothes. I would never, you know, really get to do anything that I wanted to do. This would just follow me around. It just, and quite frankly, I'm going into my 10th year at this point, and I'm like, I don't think I got another 10 years in to make it to pension. It's not going to happen. Um, so I decided to leave, put in resignation. And I remember like driving to the detachment with all my gear, and I cried the whole way. I was like, I can't believe my career's coming to an end like this. I can't believe this is how it's ending. I felt cheated. I felt like it had been stolen from me. Um, all the things.
No, you had brought up a moment ago as you were dealing with that claim against you. You already kind of had this sense of like the identity of being a cop kind of being taken away. And I wanted to ask you where that was coming from, because at the time, like you were still technically a police officer. So did it almost feel like you knew where this was heading kind of
Feel
all
like
along? Yeah.
I think deep down I knew that there's no way I was going to make 20 years.
Hmm.
You know, yeah, there's just no way. Uh, so yeah, like I signed all my paperwork off in the spring of 2015, and I had enough vacation and time banked off to bring me to. It was 10 years on the nose, September 19th, 2015.
Wow.
That was it. Um, I did feel once it was all said and done. I remember it took a while to feel like the weight was coming off, and I think that and I had a buddy who had a landscaping company. He's like, "Hey, just come push a rake with me for a few months, just get you out of the house." I'm like, "Yep, sounds good."
Yeah, that's a good opportunity. Just have something
Yeah,
to do.
I mean, I am not a handy dude, so like that's about all it's good for.
Yeah.
But get me out of the house and just and my son was born. My first son was born in the summer of that year, so
That's
kind of get you,
stressful.
yeah,
Fucking
getting
leaving
used,
work and like, hey, I have no paycheck now. I have no real prospects other than this landscaping gig.
yeah,
And now I have a kid.
yeah. Um, and then, yeah, just you're trying to navigate all that, and I ended up and then actually that year I ended up discharging from OSI because by that point it had been like 5 years of like twice a week EMDR and CBD, CPT and CPT and
Hmm.
talk therapy and group therapy and couples therapy, and I did a sleep study, and I was all these things, like it was all the things,
Yeah.
medications and everything else, and yeah, I just needed a break. So kind of fast forward a little bit, get out in the public sector or private sector, sorry, and doing my thing. And second son's born, and I notice as I'm a few more years into my job, and I'm like starting to feel things are coming up that I didn't really realize were there initially. Um,
Like what? What do you mean?
I had this overwhelming like insecurity, like imposter syndrome,
Mm.
not feeling good enough. Um, and as time was going on, like my wife's like, I think by the time I got to 2020, 21, and my wife's like, "You're yelling a lot. Like you're always angry. You have no
Mhm.
patience." Um, and the nightmares were continuing, and all these
Mm.
things. Wasn't sleeping very well.
And your kids
Um,
are like what age?
by this point, my oldest would have been like 5, and my youngest is maybe like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, not good, not good. And again, like looking in the mirror and just like hating what you see. Just
Yeah, there's a unique combination of like somebody who already has a short temper or somebody who's already, overstimulated easily because of the hypervigilance and also fucking brain damage that you had, man. Like that's a real thing I think people overlook a little bit too much is like the TBI factor. A unique combination of those kinds, like that symptom cluster, and then young kids at home. Because, dude, your wife's not sleeping either. So she's fucking overstimulated from breastfeeding and being home with kids. And then you get home and your kid knocks something over, just does normal kid stuff. And now you start yelling. And now you and your wife are fighting in front of your kids. Your kids are crying. Your
yeah,
wife's like, what the fuck is going on here? And then it all blows over and you look in the mirror and you're like, what a fucking piece of shit I am. Yeah,
yeah,
not a good combination.
yeah. And there was like she described me as the black cloud. Like
Mhm.
it was easier just for her to go do things on her own with the kids than
Oh,
have me
for
around.
sure. Yeah, for
You know.
sure.
Um, but yeah, I remember like she said like you need to go back. Like you're yelling too much. And I mean,
Go back to what, like the OSI, like the
OSI,
therapy and
yeah,
everything? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You need to go back. And so I did that. I again like I'm just Okay, fine, let's do this again. Still on meds, still doing things. At this point, I'm probably like I stopped taking sleeping pills when my first son was born, but then like towards like me going into it, I'm using marijuana to sleep. So I mean, it didn't really matter. And yeah, the nightmares and wasn't sleeping and just grouchy, and I was drinking and just not engaging with the family and all the things. Um, so that therapy continued on. I did more like ART and talk therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy and that sort of thing. And then I remember like in this kind of going into the spring of 2024, I remember coming back from my appointment. I'm driving down the hill in like into the valley where my house is, and just kind of looking out, and I'm just like, time I'm 45, and I'm like, I remember like looking out and just like, man, I'm 45 years old, and this is the best my life is gonna get, and this sucks. And I'm like,
Fuck,
I
man.
don't know if I got another 40 years in my tank.
Yeah.
This sucks. I'm just like, but yeah, I just felt like I was resigning myself to it because
What are you gonna do?
what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
And you just, you're thinking like, well, maybe it'd be better if I wasn't here. I
Yeah.
don't know. That you start getting those voices in your head again. I'm
I've
trying to go running and trying to go to the gym and do all the things to take care of myself. But when I'm running, I got the voices in my head saying, what are you doing this for? You're a loser. You're broken.
I've heard a
Just
lot of
quit.
guys start convincing themselves. I feel like this is the most insidious one. My family would be better off without me here. Like, did you ever have a thought like that?
I remember thinking, like, I just remember thinking they would, it'd be better if I wasn't here.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I never had a plan. I didn't know, but I absolutely remember thinking that, like, maybe it'd just be better if I wasn't here. Um, Fuck, man, I'm sorry.
Why are you apologizing to me?
Yeah, I makes a guy kind of. I feel really bad saying stuff like that now.
Man, I don't think you should feel bad about it. I feel like if anything, you should feel proud that you're not in that place anymore.
Yeah, I know. I
That you're
just
still here. Like
yeah
you succeeded.
yeah. I don't know. I think I feel bad because I look at my kids and I look at my wife and I how could it have been all right for me to think that that would be okay for them to deal with?
That's that's what I'm saying, man. That's the
So
craziest part. Is that when you're in that place, like you actually believe that. That's how fucked up this is that
yeah,
you can actually convince yourself that that's real. Whereas like dude, I'm sure that you know people who like fellow officers or other veterans who have killed themselves and you've seen what that's done to their family.
yeah. Anyway, um, yeah. So just thinking this is the best my life's going to get, and
What are you doing for work at that point?
I'm working for I'm working at my current job, Suncor Energy. I was aviation
Okay.
advisor, so kind of
Okay.
yeah,
Back to your roots.
back to my roots. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean I love airplanes, I love aviation, so I felt really blessed that I got to end up
Okay.
back where I was before. But
Cool.
um, yeah, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And then I remember listening to a podcast. I was listening to Sean Ryan. He was interviewing this Army Ranger sniper, and I don't know, I just like listening to. It was always really interesting to me how like individuals who were in special forces think, like their mentality, how they approach life, has always really interested me. I think they're so focused and goal
Mm,
oriented, and I just
yeah.
I think,
singular in their focus too, you
yeah,
know.
and it really, like, I was like, I just, maybe there's some bits in here that I could really use in my own life, or things that I would apply to my life, and I just like listen to their stories, and what brought them to do what they do and all that sort of thing. Anyways, he was interviewing this sniper, and as a sidebar conversation, it was like a 10-second clip in a 5.5 hour podcast. They mentioned this treatment in Mexico. They're like, "Oh, you did that? Yeah, yeah, and it was great. I don't drink anymore, and I'm more patient with my kids, and I'm more
Right.
all these
Yep.
things." And I'm like, and it was like literally 10 seconds on, and they went, and I didn't really think anything of it. Finished the podcast over a few days, and then like a few days after that, I'm like, man, what were they talking about? I should look into that. What was
Hmm.
that? Try to go back and find it, and I can't find it. Like 10 seconds in 5.5 hours. Like,
Yeah,
what,
good luck.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
no, screw it. I'll message Sean Ryan. I'll message him
Really?
and see what he says. Hey, Sean. Um, hey, man, I was listening to your show. Great work. A little bit about me. I'm a police officer. I've been struggling with post-traumatic stress. I noticed you mentioned this therapy in this podcast. What's that called? I'd like to look into it for myself. Thanks again. And I'll be damned if the next day you didn't get back to me. Hey, man, thanks for reaching out. It's called Ibogaine and 5-MeO DMT. Good luck, Sean. And I'm like, Iba what? What is that?
Hmm.
Like, okay. So I start doing the Google, get on the Googler and the interwebs and everything else. And I'm like, Mexico? Like, I can't, I got to go to Mexico? And I mean, I know now that there's underground stuff all over the place with Ibogaine and Iboga and everything else. But at the time, I did not know that. Um, I got to go to Mexico? All right. And I'm like, man, that's expensive. And then I came on to, I found the Mission Within popped up. It was like the first one that kind of came up on the Google, and I reached out to them, and I was like, hey, I noticed that you're kind of really focused on the special operators. Like, have you helped first responders before? Like, and if you haven't, that's cool, but could you point me in the right direction? Because I think this is something I should look into. They got back and were like, hey, yeah, we've helped out a lot of first responders. Click here to book your intro call. And I'm like, whoa, 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 let's just pump the brakes here. Like, that's a little quick for me.
Hmm.
And I started listening more podcasts and kind of I listened to Sean Ryan's like podcast, and I listened to Marcus and Amber Capone's experience, and I'm like, listen to these guys talk about this therapy, and I'm like, and they're talking about their stories, and yeah, I was never a SEAL, but damn, I could relate with a lot of what they were experiencing, like the feelings. And man, like I was like I'd be sitting in my truck list, like kids are in the karate lessons, and I'm in the truck listening to this podcast, and I'm crying because I'm just like, I can relate with that. That's that's me. Um, and I'm sending stuff to my wife the whole time, not really talking about it, but just like, hey, look, check this out, check this out. And then we went out for my my birthday for supper, and she had we're sitting there talking, and I'm like, hey, did you listen to that stuff I sent you? She's like, yeah. And like I'm kind of mentally preparing myself for an argument or a talk about it, because I mean, it's expensive, and
Hmm.
but in my head I'm thinking, I think this is something that I should try. This might be something I should be doing. um so I'm kind of mentally preparing myself for the argument, because it's a lot of money. um and it seems so far out there. Like, I didn't really like it, just seemed like so far out of the realm of a possibility that I'd ever thought about before.
Yep.
And she's like, yeah, I listened. I'm like, well, what do you think? And I'm just kind of doing that, bracing for it. And like, she didn't even flinch. She's like, you got to go.
Hmm.
You got to do it.
Amazing.
Dude, it was incredible. Like, I just like that weight, like, she's got my back here on this one, like, I don't have to like argue about why I should be doing it, or the benefits, or like I'd have to build a business case for it.
Yeah.
They're just like, you need to go.
Yeah. It's
And
amazing.
I'm like, are you sure? Like, it's a lot of money. She's like, we can afford it. She's like, just, you can't put a price on your health. And I'm like, well, you kind of can. It's that, you know. Um, but we went. So, anyways, long story short, so yeah, I made an appointment to go. This time I consulted with my physician to come off my meds
Hmm.
properly,
Yeah.
not just cold turkey.
What was that
Uh,
like the second time around? 'Cause I don't
it
think that's
was,
something people really realize is like the types of folks who need these kinds of experiences are often the folks who are on SSRIs.
yeah.
And I don't think that the retreat centers really do too much to help you with that aspect. So what was that part of the experience like for you?
So yeah, so to anyone who is thinking about doing this, 100% talk with your family doctor, have a plan about how you're going to titrate off of these pills because they are so powerful. You don't realize how powerful they are until you're in the midst of withdrawals. So
Yep.
it was awful. It was awful. I was super anxious. I was nauseous, headaches. I had the brain zaps.
Yep.
And it's like that barrier I had. I'm pointing my chest and my heart, but it's all those feelings that you have. You have that SSRI barrier there to kind of regulate you.
Yep.
And while you're the SSRIs are while it's blocking those feelings, you have absolutely zero practice in how to regulate your own emotions. So I would be driving and a song would come on and I'd start bawling. And I'm like, what is going on? Like,
Mhm.
what? And like, I remember one time we were leaving on holidays and I'm trying to get the truck packed and the kids ready and I'm doing all the things and I'm running around and I stood in the garage and I started bawling. And my wife comes out. She's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I don't know what's going on." Like, I'm just like, I'm a mess. She's like, "Just go take 10 minutes, go downstairs, go meditate, and just chill. I got this." And I'm like, I was off the rails. It was awful. Um, but again, you got to wean yourself off of it. So I want to say I started weaning off at the end of July of 2024, and I took my last pill last bit of a pill, and probably like mid to late September, somewhere in that area. And I would say the withdrawal symptoms didn't truly stop until probably like a week or two into October.
Yeah, I believe that. Takes a while for that stuff to get out of your system and then for your brain chemistry to sort of restabilize itself.
Yeah.
And
It was somewhere around like don't quote me for sure. I want to say it's around there somewhere, right? Because
I
I had to
almost
be
feel
like,
like, sorry, finish your thought. What were you gonna say?
because they want you to be like 3 weeks clear of your last pill before you go, right?
Yeah, at least, dude. When we were
Yeah.
running ayahuasca retreats, I wanted people to be like 6 weeks at minimum. Um, because I feel like it's almost like best case scenario with getting off the meds, they weren't even really helping you and you're just dealing with the side effects of the withdrawals. It's almost worse when the meds were objectively helping you to deal with the symptoms that you were having because now you come off of them and like, well, now what the fuck am I supposed to do? Like I'm seeking out the ibogaine because I'm not doing well, and now I'm
Hmm.
objectively doing worse because I don't have this crutch that was supporting me. So that's a
Oh
rough
man.
transition, man. Like the
Yeah.
the physical side effects, the brain zaps, and then as you said, the emotional turmoil and dysregulation that you're going through.
Yeah. I
That's
didn't
hard.
I didn't do a lot of introspection the first time I come off of them. I would say and maybe it had to do with age, I don't know, but the introspection I had the second time around is a lot more thorough. I could kind of understand a lot better what was actually happening and why I was
Hmm.
feeling that way. It didn't make it any easier. It just, like I said, that barrier that
Yeah.
you had absolutely zero practice of regulating your emotions. So,
Yep.
it's sometimes it was kind of comical. I remember like listening. I was getting out of the truck one time when I was coming back from work, and my wife's and I wedding song came on, and I'm getting out of the truck and I'm bawling from listening to our wedding song. And she comes up, she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, just listen to our wedding song," just so we kind of had a little bit of a laugh over that. But like,
Yeah.
it's funny, but it's not.
Yeah.
But yeah, so got all that stuff done, got off, stopped drinking, stopped the weed, kind of cleaned up my diet going into it. And my retreat was November the 4th of 2024. And I will say that, I mean, that journey itself, the journey with the medicines is probably like another discussion all on its own, but um, it changed my life. It was, I mean, I was there for both the birth of my children and getting married and all that stuff, but it's right. It was the significance of that event was not small. It was not a minor impact. It changed me. It totally, completely changed my outlook on life.
Yeah, and you're right to detail the actual experience. Would take another probably 3 hours, so we don't need like
Yeah.
a full trip report and everything. Can you help people, who haven't done this yet, just like you sitting there listening to the Sean Ryan show? So you just shared with us everything that led up to this point, how you were feeling heading into that. And then, as you just said, it completely changed your life. It's up there as like the most significant experience beyond perhaps, watching your children be born. Like, what do you think that it actually did? What do you feel like is the mechanism by which this changed you or made things better? Like, why why was that such a turning point in your life? What did it give you? Or perhaps what did it take away?
It allowed me to see things um, from a different perspective that I had never really thought about before. It also it also helped to make sense of things where logically I knew to be true, but I could not make the connection between my mind and my soul.
Right. Well, all right. I'm saying right and nodding because I have also experienced that with ayahuasca. But what do you mean when you say that? This connection
Okay.
that
Okay. I'll give you two examples. So, things from a different perspective. I wanted to be able to feel joy again.
hmm
I felt like I was not capable of feeling actual, true happiness and joy.
hmm
I don't remember what that felt like. I don't remember what it looked like. Um, so that was one of my intentions going into the medicine. Part of my experience was, I, at one point, it was a blue screen. Blue. All I could see was this blue screen, and these little white boxes that were flying up into my field of vision like this. And each of these white boxes were videos of my life.
hmm
And I could watch my life from like a little boy, baby, all the way up to now. And one of them well, there were a few of them, but one of them, I was young. I would say 6, 7, 8 years old, somewhere in there. And it was, I was gathered, sitting around the kitchen table, and my family, my friends were there. And the look on my face I had this big smile, and I looked free, and I looked happy, and I looked that feeling of joy. And then, there was other events of me, pretending to be Superman, flying around my backyard with this red cape around my neck, and again smiling and laughing, and um, and then I saw things in my visions of my family, and then my first dog that I had in my first post, my first golden retriever, she was there, and she was like she'd come to visit me, like she'd come to kind of guide me along, or she was there, and I remember seeing her. I'm like, Chloe, like I'm so happy to see you, and I just started crying, like again, I thought I wasn't able to feel happy because of what happened to me, the trauma I had in the service. The medicine showed me that my life had been full of joy. I had just forgotten about it. And that was incredibly powerful. It wasn't that it wasn't there, it was just that it's always been there. I just didn't recognize it.
It's funny you use that example specifically, the joy aspect. We had somebody, and I've talked about this a handful of times before. We had somebody come to our Operation Flow State retreat last year. He's going to be back next month. Actually, he's a Canadian veteran, and he was telling me how he literally had an argument with his VAC therapist, trying to tell his therapist that joy was not real, that like human beings don't actually experience joy, like it's all fake. That's like the depths of this guy's fucking depression and just like flat feelings, right? Like joy doesn't exist. And then he comes to our retreat and watches, it was literally just me playing with my daughter, you know, and seeing like the look of pure unadulterated joy on this baby's face. She was maybe like a year old at the time. And just that put it into perspective for him. He was like, oh, okay, this is real. This is a me problem where I just haven't been able to access this in the last 45 years, really.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm almost hearing the same thing from you, where it's like a reminder that this has actually been there all along. You just haven't been in touch with it, or haven't been seeing that, haven't been able to access it, which I think
yeah,
is a thing the SSRIs do also. You know, the numbness that they give you, the emotional disconnection, as you said. You know, it's that's great if you are feeling suicidal and it turns down the volume on those feelings, but it also just reduces your ability to really feel anything or feel connected to anything.
yeah,
And I agree with you. That's one of the most potent things that the plant medicine can give us is a connection to that again.
yeah,
Um, Taking something that exists as like an abstract idea in your mind, like, well, I should be able to feel this, but I don't, and then planting it as something that you actually feel like in your body and in your soul, as you said. Yeah, man,
yeah,
it's powerful stuff.
yeah. And then the connection between my my heart and my mind, the logical stuff. So without getting the grand big details of it, I had felt I investigated a file in my first post, um, and an individual uh, ended up committing suicide in that in the circumstances surrounding that file,
Okay.
and I felt that I didn't do anything wrong. I did my job. I investigated like I was supposed to do. I did everything was fine, but I felt that the things that I had done drove this individual to kill
Mm,
himself.
okay.
So
That's heavy.
I, yeah, and I remember like a week after this happened, sitting in the detachment and just telling my coworker, like, I made him do that. Like, I don't know how. Like, I feel like he did it because of me. And you know, logically in my head, like, no, I didn't do that. But I, I, it was just like this visceral, this deep down feeling that you cannot shake.
Yeah.
That I was responsible for this man's death, and there was no amount of EMDR, there was no amount of pills, there was no amount of
Yeah.
talk therapy that was ever going to get rid of that.
Yeah.
It just I could not. So, anyways, one of my intentions with the medicine was I wanted to be free of the guilt of this man's death.
Mm,
And I remember like you could talk to the medicine, and like, so I after like watching these videos of my life, I said, "What about so and so? What about him?" And that blue screen immediately went black, and I started like hearing these gunshots, and with each gunshot, there would be like a photo, and it was like images of that day. So him laying in the field, the frost on the grass, you know, all these things that were in my head. And then I remember asking the medicine, did I do that? Am I responsible for that? And then those pictures went away, and then there was like these thundering booms in my ears. And with each boom of thunder, it was like these big red block letters written in red, no, just, and it just, every thunder boom, no, 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 it just kept coming down over and over and over again. And so
That's
when I
crazy.
say like the connection between like, yeah, your soul reconciling with your mind, that's what I'm talking about there. Now, another thing that came out of that with a 5-MeO DMT um, was a connection with a higher power that I'd never ever had
Wow.
before. That was totally unexpected. Like I did not bargain for that.
I don't know how you can do this stuff and still be an atheist, man. I think you're doing something wrong if you come out of an experience like that and you still don't believe in something.
It was nuts. It was it was
Yeah.
it was absolutely crazy. And I will say, like, even to this day, I'm still trying to figure out how that all fits within my life, and how what I experience fits in with any sort of like spirituality or religion. I don't really know. I'm still navigating that.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for it. Like I'm so grateful. It's given me a lot of different. It's given me a purpose. Um, I will say that, like, when I handed in my badge and my gun, I was done. There was no way I was gonna. I wanted no part of service. I'm like, I did this. I'm out. And now, like, when I came back, I remember thinking, like, no, no, I am still meant to serve. It just looks different.
Yes, let's
And
talk about that. What is the sense of purpose now that you gain from that?
so on the airplane, I remember thinking, like, thinking of all those group therapy sessions I sat in with these other veterans and like first responders, like RCMP officers, and I mean, and you, of course, like you just see on the news and social media all these first responders and veterans dying by suicide. And I'd heard stories of divorce and suicide and substance abuse and broken relationships and all these things. And I'm like, do these guys not know about this, or do they know about it and they can't afford to go? Like, what is going on? Like, nobody I knew, nobody I knew, we certainly didn't talk about this. We didn't know about it.
Hmm.
So, I mean, what's going on? So I remember thinking, like, that's not acceptable. Like, I got to try and do something. And I remember, like, this kind of idea just bounced around in my head. Like, and I remember looking, like, when I was looking for help, there was a lot of American charities that were helping first responders and veterans.
Yeah.
But on the Canadian side, I'm like, not for this. Yes, to be sure, there are other charities out there that help veterans and first responders. But I would say it's done in the more traditional sense, which has its place. Absolutely, it does.
Yep.
It does. But when you have complex post traumatic stress, there's only there's only so far those traditional means are gonna take you.
I agree.
And maybe it's enough for some, but some it's not. And for myself personally, I was not satisfied with how I was feeling. There was just no way I could continue on the way I was feeling. So coming back, I'm on the plane, I'm thinking about all this stuff, and again, I'm just like, I could not fathom a reality where I went on with my life and did not try and do something to help other people with this. There was just, how do I continue on knowing that this is out there and there's still people dying? Um, Families are losing loved ones, relationships are falling apart. That's
So how did the project LifeSpark get started? Like, was there like a flash of insight of like, I need to start a nonprofit? Or was it just kind of the culmination of those feelings of like looking around, seeing there's really not many options and
there.
people need this and I can't not do my part to bring this to people. So
Yeah,
I guess I have to do this.
but it was kind of like that.
Yeah.
It was like there's nothing there and nobody's doing it, so I guess that's me. And I'm like, I don't know anything about this. Like, I
Yeah.
I know nothing.
As
So, like,
as we discussed the other day, running a nonprofit is really not fun at all. Or it's not a great time.
it's tough. It's tough for sure. But as difficult as it is, as I carry the weight of each individual that we talk to. Um, I talk to each of the individuals that apply to our program, and very upfront with them, like funds are limited. We want to help you. We will help you. I just don't know when that is.
Hmm.
But I listen to each of their stories, and I'm like, I want to make sure they have supports in place. I want to, like, if you don't have it, like, what can I do to help you find some? You know, and that now they have my phone number, they got my email address. So, like, if you need something, please let me know. We want to help. But I carry that. Like, I want to, like, I worry about them. They're my guys. They're my people now. Um, so yeah, like when you say like it's tough, but like, damn, it's rewarding. I want to be able to help these guys feel something again. And I remember, like, for myself, getting through the withdrawals, I had hope again. Like, I had this thing on the other end of that, and it gave me hope. And I hadn't felt hope in 20 years. And that was a powerful thing. That got me through all the withdrawals and feeling sick. And man, I had that thing at the end of the tunnel, that little light at the end of the tunnel was my trip to Mexico, where I'm going to do this medicine I'd never heard of before, and experience these things I'd never experienced. But um, that little bit of hope got me through all that to get me there. And so if there's any, I felt like if I could give that to somebody else, if I could share my story, or share my experience, and help somebody else feel that little bit of hope, and maybe that gets them through their difficult time, that's worth it, you know.
Dude, I mean, yeah,
Um,
you're fucking speaking my language here. Like, I talk to literally, like, we talk to like hundreds of people a month, seeing what we can do for them, if our program's right for them, if we can point them in some other directions. And it's heavy, man. Like,
yeah,
I do all of that. Like, I'm the point person. Like, anybody listening, if you've ever messaged us on Instagram, like, that was me. And one day, I don't even know why, but Cordy took a look in there, and it was somebody talking about like losing their fucking like infant child recently. And Cordy just like dipped her toe in that world of like talking to all these people, and like that messed her up for a while. And that's what I'm doing day in and day out, man.
yeah.
But then, I can literally rattle off 20 people who told me that, years ago they were suicidal and now they're here and they're doing great because of our retreats or our program or whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's worth all
Yeah,
of it.
yeah. So, like, so the name Project Life Spark, I remember it was after my 5-MeO session. I remember laying on that mattress in Mexico, and it felt like God took that spark, that life, that feeling in your chest, just put it right back in me. That's, you know, um, that's where that came from. But yeah, so, like, yeah, it was just like little bits of steps. Okay, I got to do this, I got to do that. So, like, I got to find a board, I got to build a website, do all the things.
I,
And
I wanted to ask you about that because the people on your board seem pretty impressive. Like, I was just
dude,
kind
they're
of reading
awesome,
through that and like looking at some of their resumes and stuff. Like, where did you find these people?
man. I The people on my board are rock stars. I feel like a small fish in a big pond with those guys. Like,
Yeah,
they're
man,
amazing.
I
Yeah,
forget the gentleman's name, so I apologize. But the legal representative that you have, I was like reading
yeah.
through his bio, and I was like, how the fuck does Jeremy know this guy?
Well, I didn't know any of these people. What I was doing, what I was doing, I'd go work my normal 8-hour job. I'd
Hmm.
come home, get on the computer, and I would start doing Google searches, like, uh, Canadian psychedelic lawyer, or Canadian doctor psychedelics, and just
Yeah.
reading, like, articles, and like different things would come up, and like, so for instance, Jim Parker was my first board member. I found him. I found him through a CBC article where he had donated money to the local university, and they'd set up the Parker Research Chair of Psychedelics at the University of Calgary.
Mm.
And I'm like, that's a guy I want to work with. Like, obviously, he believes in this. Like, and it talked about how he had a family member who, the article talked about he had a family member who he had funded some psychedelic assisted therapy for,
Mm-hmm.
and was such a deep believer in the results that he saw he decided to donate money to the local university. So I'm like, that's a guy I want to work with. So I found him on LinkedIn, and like he also set up a organization in Calgary here called Bloom Psychedelics,
Mm-hmm.
where they do treatments here. Um, his uh, that his version of Bloom doesn't exist anymore. It exists in a different format than what he had. He's out of it now. But um, I just wrote him on LinkedIn and like, hi Jim, little bit about me. Kind of told him a bit of my story. I said I'm setting up a nonprofit, and I'm just wondering if you'd be interested in having a conversation about being involved in it. So, and I'll be down if you didn't get back to me. He's like, yeah, let's chat. Let's chat. And I'm like, wow, okay, cool.
Mm.
So then we talked, and he's like, yeah, I want to be a part of this. And I'm like, awesome. So, and then David, um, because in my head I wanted to have like a doctor on my board. I should have a lawyer on my board. And so David, Jim knew David, so Jim facilitated the intro with him.
Mm.
And again, I wrote him an email and said, this is a little bit about me. Would you like to meet and discuss it? And so yeah, we met for lunch one day, and I kind of told him what my vision was, and he believed in that as well. And he's like, I'd like to be a part of that. Rakesh, so Rakesh was the head of the Canadian Armed Forces. He was the head psychiatrist for the Canadian Armed Forces during the Afghanistan campaign.
Mm.
And I found his name through a report that the Canadian Senate did on Veteran Affairs Subcommittee on psychedelics, and his name was in that. So I'd reached out because I wanted to have a doctor in my board. So I reached out and said, hey, this is what I'm doing. So we chatted again. He believed in it. I want to be a part of this. Great, awesome. And then Gordon is an ex-Canadian Forces Special Forces guy, and he was referred to me. Actually, he did intro to Gordon was made through the my operations coordinator through the Mission Within.
Okay.
Um, he was an ex-SEAL, and the connection was made through the Honor Foundation that way.
Okay.
So yeah, we got an email saying, "Hey, Jeremy, Gordon, Jeremy, I'll let you go from here."
Yeah.
And so
Gordo's the man.
Gord's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. He's all
Yeah.
like I said, like I told my wife this numerous times. I cannot believe sometimes I have to pinch myself that I was able to somehow convince these amazing individuals to be a part of this with me.
Means you're
Like
doing something right.
well, I certainly don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to do my best. That's But
Yeah.
anyway, so that's how my board came to be. And like I'm they're amazing individuals. Each and every one of them are rock stars in their own right. I'm just glad that they believe in what I'm trying to do to be,
Yeah. Amazing.
you know. And yeah, yeah. So that's how that came to be. So board. Of course, you go through all the paperwork and getting registered and stuff. We went live in I say end of May, beginning of June of 2025. And in my head, I had a goal. I want to be able to send one person because we didn't have a charity number yet, and so we can't issue tax receipts. So raising money is a real challenge when you don't have that ability. Um, so in my head, I thought if I could get one person down, that's a win. Oh, and I should say, my wife and I, when I got back from Mexico, um, I felt like I needed to try and help somebody. So we ended up sponsoring a veteran to go through the program on our own
Mm.
prior to Project LifeSpark being born. So, but again, how do I stop at one? I couldn't, again, I couldn't fathom a reality where I stopped at one. Like I was knowing that there's so many people on the Canadian side that need this work, right? So yeah, so we went live, had the idea of sending one, and I just kind of went out, started doing the advertising, on social media and saying, hey, this is what I got going on, this is what we're doing. I did other podcasts to kind of tell the story a little bit, and everybody that I talked to was like, that's an incredible story, like that's amazing, um, and it is like my story is there are thousands of veterans and first responders like me that have this similar story, right? We're out there. It's just that you don't know about it because it seems like it's still got that 1960s psychedelic stigma, and
Yeah, I
us who
mean
grew up in the
it's
in the
changing now
1980s.
because
Yeah,
there's a million fucking podcasts like this. But I think there is also a unique angle too for law enforcement where it's like, oh, you mean this thing that's illegal that I've arrested people for? I'm supposed to use that now to heal? It's a
but you know what?
little,
Where we go, where we're sending people, it's absolutely legal there.
hmm.
There's nothing illegal about it in Mexico.
Yep, yep.
So it's just about
Um,
changing perspective a little bit.
so what's on the horizon for you guys right now? You still don't have this fucking tax exempt status, and I
No,
think you said we're just waiting on the Canadian government for that. So who knows when that's gonna happen?
yeah, it's yes, it's with the CRA right now. I'm hoping by the summer we have it, but I mean, there's no guarantees there. In the meantime, through the kindness and generosity of friends and family and people who know people, like we were able to send two individuals to Mexico, so that both of them were first responders, and both of them are doing amazing right now.
Good.
Um, but yeah, but it's like I said before, the challenge is we have people applying and we still don't have the money to send them all, right? And I think maybe that's a challenge of every nonprofit out there. There's never enough money to help everybody who needs it, right?
Pretty much.
But again, for us, it's a little bit different. We're still within our first year of operation, so and talking about challenges, David, I think that this is something I struggle with intensely as well. I am constantly comparing myself and my organization to the other larger organizations out there, Heroic Hearts, Vets, 343. These guys are doing amazing work, right, man? These guys are, in my mind, like that's where we need to be. But I mean, they've been operating for years now, and I'm sitting here at not even the first year, and I'm like, but I set the bar so high, like you
Yeah,
want
dude,
to
you
do.
you need to unfollow all of those accounts on social media, dude.
They're
For real,
doing amazing work.
when I
Yeah.
started my first like coaching business, doing like physical therapy stuff, that was one of the pieces of advice that our like my business mentor gave me was like, go unfollow every single other person in the same industry right now, because comparison is the thief of joy, dude.
Oh,
As I
man.
said to you when we first talked, like you already sent a couple of people, you already changed a couple of people's lives. That's amazing. You're crushing it. But then you look at HHP or vets and you're like, I'm doing nothing with my life. I'm not where I need to be.
Yeah.
It's not
And
the medicine that told you to forgive yourself for all those things that happened. It wouldn't be telling you, yeah, Jeremy, you're not doing a good enough job right now. So
mhm,
all those thoughts are not what the medicine wants you to hear, man.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it totally like it gets the hamster wheel going in my head, and I'm like, and you start like second guessing yourself and all these things, and
No good, dude.
that, yeah, that's good advice. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should, but that's not to say that they're not doing excellent work. They are.
No,
Maybe
yeah,
it's not good for me.
they're amazing, but
Yeah, they are. They're
you don't need to
fantastic.
remind yourself of how far away you are from that every day.
Yeah. So and I think that, and I honestly like part of like came out of the integration that I do every day, like the meditation and the praying and the breath work. Part of my prayers every day is, you know, give me the strength to realize, you know, to be patient with myself and
Mm,
and take away those feelings of ego and and insecurity because they don't serve me, you know.
Yeah, dude, meet
Um,
God halfway here. Stop giving yourself those feelings, man.
yeah, yeah, and
uh,
totally is me. Absolutely, it is.
on that front, what else are you doing now on a daily basis? Because it's easy to hear this whole story and be like, yeah, his 1 week in Mexico completely changed him.
Yeah,
But I'm sure
it's not.
you've
Yeah,
also heard like, dude, I know of just as many success stories as people who kept going back to the medicine multiple times or who went on a retreat and like their life went back to shit 6 months later because they didn't do anything afterwards. So what has that looked like for you since getting home? Like what changes have you made? What things have you put into place?
yeah. So I will say this is not a cure. It's not a cure. It's not a one and done for anybody that's thinking that. That is 100% not the case. It is a
Hmm.
therapy just like the rest of them, albeit a far more effective therapy. Um, there is work to be done before, there is work to be done during, and there is work to be done afterwards. And I would argue that the work done afterwards is more important than the journey itself,
I would agree.
because it is, you can go down to Mexico, you can spend all the money you want to spend on it, but if you don't do the work, you're pissing it all away.
You've just had
Um,
a crazy vacation and
yeah,
nothing has really changed.
nothing's changed.
Yeah.
So um, it is for me. So I do breath work every day. I and part of that breath work is exercise. So so running, swimming, that sort of thing. So you got a regular breath in and out sort of thing, and it patterns, and so that's what my breath work looks like. I meditate every day, and it doesn't have to be a lot. Um, I've done journaling. I'm not awesome with it. It does. I still do it off and on. I'm not regular with it, and I pray every day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I tell the guys that, when I have discussions with them about, and the guys that have gone through it too, like the integration is important, and I tell them, just pick something, like pick one or two things that work for you. It doesn't have to be a whole bunch of stuff. Like if you start like, I'm going to do this and that and this and that, it's too much, and pretty soon you don't end up doing any of it.
Exactly.
So find something that you like to do that works for you and stick with that. Do 5 minutes of that. Start off with 5 minutes, then go to
Yeah,
10 minutes.
when
You know,
when we get a new person into our program, we start off, we just look at their current lifestyle habits, routines, like basic shit. How
yeah,
much caffeine, nicotine, alcohol are you consuming? When do you wake up? When do you go to bed? And we talk through all that and we come up with a plan that's usually like one thing to do differently to start with, or maybe two, like one in the morning, one at night. And people are almost always underwhelmed by where we start. They feel like it's like boring or like they're doing too little.
hmm,
But what I always tell them is like, we're in the business of changes that actually last. And that means incremental things that you will actually stick to and stack and build on top of each other. So if you try
yeah,
to make 12 changes at once, it might work great for three
nah,
days
yeah,
max.
yeah,
And then you're back to square one and worse because now you feel like shit because you committed to something and failed.
yeah.
So if we set the bar very low,
Low,
it's very easy to
absolutely.
crush it. And now you feel like you're winning and you continue in that
Yeah,
direction. So
yeah,
I agree with you wholeheartedly
yeah.
on that one.
It's like you have meditation, for example. Like start with 5 minutes. Shit, start with 2 minutes. Like, do not start at 20, 25, 30 minutes. You'll never get there. It, it's
Dude,
too
I
much, you know?
oftentimes where we start is not even, hey, let's add this other thing in, but oh hey, you've been on your phone 7 hours and 30 minutes daily average the past month. Like maybe let's start there. Maybe let's get an app blocker to cut that out. And now all we need to do is just give you some better options in the morning or at
Yeah,
night. So hey, instead of just grabbing your phone and your morning coffee, there's a book or you walk your dog or you sit down to do some breath work, what have you.
yeah,
That's I just bring that up because I had a talk yesterday. This dude is drinking 9 cups of coffee a day, and his daily screen time average was like over 7 hours. I'm like, yeah, bro, we're gonna start here.
yeah, yeah, that's fair. So, yeah, that's what it looks for me. Like for me, now also coming out of the medicine, my alcohol was not one of my intentions going down there, but I coming back, I had this very, I wanted no part of it. I was like, I'm not interested in it. I didn't even feel the desire to drink. And like,
For sure. Yeah.
and you were talking to my wife, like Friday and Saturday, I wanted to drink. That's what I did. That's what I wanted to be with my friends. I wanted family or with family, friends. Um, I wanted to drink, and I didn't do that anymore. I didn't
Mhm.
want it anymore. And actually, so like I'm a year and 4 months, a little over a year and 4 months sober now.
Amazing.
Haven't touched, haven't touched booze, haven't touched weed, and like I would say that. So we both know, like Ibogaine is very good at addiction, killing addictions, mostly for opiates, but alcohol and other things is definitely a
For
part of that.
sure. Yep.
Um, that wasn't one of my intentions going down there, but I felt very strongly about it, and like part of my one of my intentions was being more engaged with my family, and this is what integration also does, is that you will have stuff that comes up months after your retreat that you didn't realize was there,
For sure.
and you'll have these realizations. You're like, oh, you know, and that's what alcohol was for me. I realized I kept thinking to myself, why is this urge not to do this anymore so strong?
Hmm.
And I got to thinking about it, and like one of my intentions was that I wanted to be more present, engaged with my family. And then I got to thinking about that. Well, when I was drinking, I didn't want to be with my family. I wanted to be with my friends, or I'm in the basement, leave me alone. Um, and then, of course, the next day I'm hungover and I'm grouchy and I'm tired and I want to be left alone. I don't want to do anything. And then maybe I'd do it again that night. And then the next day I'm tired and grouchy and hungover.
Yep.
And like then it was
Absolutely.
kind of like it was kind of a dawn on me, really. It just dawned on me. And I'm like, I had a lot of feelings surrounded. I felt like a selfish asshole.
Because of the drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally, man. And
I It made me feel like a terrible, horrible dad.
yep. And I feel like alcohol is one of the alcohol and screens, scrolling are like some of the most normalized ways that we disconnect from ourselves. And so
Yeah.
if you want to be present with your family, like you are literally not being present whatsoever if you have alcohol in your system. Like it's just taking you a step back from the connection that you're supposed to be having with people.
Yeah. And man, like I remember when I came back and I didn't want to drink. And I will say that I didn't, but that being said, I never ever like said to myself, I'm never drinking again.
Mm-hmm.
What I said to myself was, I feel good the way things are right now. I'm just going to go with this.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say I'm never ever going to drink again. I'm still saying that I'm never going to drink again. Maybe one day I'll decide to have a glass of wine.
Yep.
But I think right now, as I'm saying this, I feel I got a good thing going right now. I don't want to mess that up. I'm just going to stick with this and just see where it goes. But I think also, that being said, I think I have a lot more awareness out of why I did those things. And that's something to remember. Like that's something I need to carry too. Like why did I choose to drink? What were my reasons
Absolutely.
for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's something else that came out of, you know, things that come up, the work that comes up after your retreat.
Yeah, and it's
They pop
interesting as
up. They could
as you
come up
said,
months after.
that was never one of your intentions. It was never something you clearly wanted. But I feel like the medicine has a way of showing you things that are like it is an answer to your intention, but it's just not in a way that you ever would have expected. So just like we said a second ago, if you want to be more present with your family, you want to be a better father, husband, etc., the medicine's going to show you what's out of alignment. And for you, the drinking was one of them. And yeah, I think ibogaine in particular, but plant medicine in general, has a way of just the desire for that drops away over time. Because I'm sure you felt this, where the alcohol was like I always talk about this. I don't think people have a drinking problem. I think you had a drinking solution to your anxiety problem, to your depression problem, to your self-worth problem, etc. And so the alcohol was helping you in that way. And then
Hmm.
after the ibogaine takes away some of those problems, or it helps you to work through them on your own, you just don't need the alcohol in the same way that you once did. So we're hitting it from like every angle of like the ibogaine objectively resetting receptors in your brain.
Hmm.
You're finding better solutions to those problems, and you're realizing the disconnection that came from it. So yeah, it makes sense to me, man, that you're not drinking
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think, yeah. So that's kind of where we're sitting with that. But, like overall, I think, if I had to like summarize this whole thing, I believe that what we're doing here right now, like as far as like Project Life Spark and giving veterans and first responders an opportunity to be better versions of themselves, find their wellness. Um, I think this movement will happen here in Canada, like it has in the United States, where it is veterans and it's first responders that lead the movement and show people it's like they say, you got to be the change that you want to see in the world. So like
Mm-hmm.
the voices, the more of us that do this, the more people that we're able to help, the voices get louder, they get louder, they get louder, and pretty soon you cannot ignore it anymore.
Absolutely, dude.
And I think that right now, there are a lot of closed minds and a lot of closed ears regarding this in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're trying to do work that'll change that, but there's going to be more and more.
To
We help ourselves to help others.
to that end, where would you direct people to check out? Maybe they shouldn't make donations yet until you got this tax thing in hand.
Well,
But
I should.
people who want to support what you're doing, what could they do?
Well, I can't say that they shouldn't donate if they want to donate out of the kindness of their hearts. That's always fine. We are working on a way to try to address that. So hopefully that comes up, but I can't really say too much about that until it's in place. But we are trying
Sure.
to find a way to address that. But in the meantime, www.projectlifespark.org is our website. You can learn more about our story and about plant medicine, and there is a place to donate there. Uh, we have partnered with a couple organizations that um, have helped us out, or that we're familiar with. They're very well known
Awesome.
in this space. So, I believe in sending people to places where, clinically guided, it's done in a responsible means, and they're not just looking after your body, but they're looking after your soul and your mind at the same time. It's
Right.
it's a holistic approach to these organizations that they do, and I believe in that. I had someone tell me, "Well, you don't need to send people into Mexico to do this," and I'm like, "Well, if I want to do this the right way, I absolutely do."
Yeah, dude. People have no business serving ayahuasca and ibogaine and stuff like that in the U.S. and in Canada. It's sketchy.
I if I want to do this the right way and have a nonprofit be above board, I 100% need to send people to Mexico. That's the only option for me
Yeah, no, I'm on the
until
same
until
page
things
there.
change. Until things
For right
change
now. Yep.
right now, yeah.
Yep.
And what is? If someone asked me one time, "What's the end goal here?" And I'm like, "Well, ideally, I think the end goal would be that my organization, there's no need for it anymore. Where
Yeah, because this
these
stuff is just the standard
this is standard. That's the standard of
and it's
care, and that's not
accessible.
just for veterans and first responders, but for all Canadians.
Yeah.
And that's the goal. Like we collect data on everybody that goes through our program. They do pre-testing before the retreat, and then they do post-testing immediately after 6 months, and then a year out. And eventually, the goal is to publish this data so that it could be and it's observational. It's not like a real in-depth study, but it's a place where a conversation can start. Like, look, these are the results that we've got. I mean, I know my own personal results. I've seen it because I mean I had testing through OSI, so I know what mine looked like. But I'm just one of, I'm just one person. If I could multiply that effect over hundreds or thousands of people, eventually, like you can start to see trends. Like maybe this is something we should look into.
One day, man. One day we shall get there.
Yeah. So yeah, like that's the goal. Like when this care is the standard of care, and not just for veterans and first responders, but for everybody, because we all have trauma. We all have things,
I agree, man.
whether it's a big T or a little T trauma. It's we all have it.
I agree. All right, dude. We've been going 2 hours, so I do need to wrap this up. So we're gonna
Yep.
call it a day here. Thank you very much, Jeremy, for sharing your story and for doing the shit that you're doing with Project LifeSpark. And I look forward to one day where you are drowning in donations and hooking people up with our program to support the prep and the integration and sending them down to Mexico for the ibogaine and doing lots of more good things together. So thank you very much for your time, buddy. I appreciate you very much.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right, guys, that's a wrap for this one. As you'll see with some of the other episodes coming out, depending on what order these get released in, I don't even know anymore. We've got a lot of stuff coming up talking about ibogaine. I think ibogaine's really having its moment in the sun right now. And I think it deserves it, obviously, because it's genuinely helping a lot of people and saving a lot of people's lives, like Jeremy here. So if you liked everything that he had to share, I would encourage you to go check out Project LifeSpark, maybe make a donation to them. And perhaps if you feel like you need this medicine, you can reach out to them also in search of a scholarship, or you can reach out to us and we can see if you are a good fit for our microdosing program and our integration program. As always, thank you so much for listening to these podcasts. If you like what you're hearing here, if you feel like you're getting some value out of it, the least that you can do is hit subscribe on YouTube, leave a positive rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and share it with a friend who you think needs to hear these messages. Until next time, thank you very much for being here. God bless you. I'll see you soon.